Tosfos in Avodah Zarah tells us that there are certain things that it's also for a yid to do because of Chukas HaGoy, and it's like a, not dafka Avodah Zarah, but it's like so the minig of goyim to do these things. So Tosfos, a yid doesn't get involved in anything that has a shaykhus to any minig of a goy, and the reason that many bring is some say it's a chayk. There's no real reasoning for it because it comes from a pasuk of a chukei seim lo yisalechu, don't go in the ways of the goyim. It's a chayk. It's a statue. We don't really understand exactly why, but we don't do it. The chinuch says the reason why we don't do it is simply because we want to distance yidden from goyim. So therefore we want to make sure that a yid has no shaykhs to any practices that a goy may do. So I want to discuss, Be'ez Hashem, based on what we discussed a little bit yesterday, I want to discuss some of the practices that maybe perhaps fall under this category of Chukas HaGoy, Daukei Amoiri, and the like. Let's try to go through some of them to understand where they come from, what the halacha would be. Let's try to go through some of the inyonim in that case. So for example, the Shulchan Aruch in Yeridei Simon Kuf Ayin Tes brings down, it's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, Samachem, but base, that's the Makor, but upon him the Shulchan Aruch brings that a person should not rely on superstitions. Superstitions, for example, could meaning to decide based on superstitions. So if there's a black cat that walks in front of me on the street, then I'm going to decide that the business venture that I'm about to embark upon is not a good idea. No, we do not do that. Yidden do not decide things based on acts that may happen in front of him, superstitious actions. We also don't use signs for the future. So for example, I'm going to hold a stick, and if it falls that way, then I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to do that business deal, or whatever it may be. If it falls the other way, it means no. We don't do that. Klal Yisrael doesn't go and decide things based on these sorts of things. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, by the way, has a whole mahalach to explain. If you look at the Reishis Chachma, it also brings the same thing in Shara Yira, that the idea is that a person should always look at every action he does and decide, is what I'm doing now going to bring nachas to Rabbeinu Shalom? Is it Ratzon Hashem? Is what I'm doing now what the Rabbeinu Shalom wants from me? We don't decide the future based on things that we put in front of us. So that is one other thing over there. Shulchan Aruch brings again, Yeridei Kufay and Tes, stargazing, or looking at the crystal ball, for example. These are all things which fall under the category of an issa, of Chukas HaGoy, of Daukei Amoiri, and must not be done. A person is not even allowed to heal himself based on all of these interesting ways of healing oneself. I'm not talking about with herbal medication, I'm talking about with interesting ways that they have, which are very goyish mahalchim of healing a person, not with medication. Could be a problem of Daukei Amoiri, depending what it is. Again, you look at the Gemara Avodah Zarah Samach Zayin, or the whole sugya Yeridei Kufay Tes goes to that as well. Now, one of the problems that we have with this is that we see that it's not always the case. We see, for example, the Shulchan Aruch and Even HaEzer in Simon Samach Daled brings down, when should a person arrange a chasana for? When should I convey the date of a chasana? The first half of the month. If you want a good marriage, first half of the month. As I state in Shulchan Aruch. So 1 second. So we are kind of predicting things. Or for example, we know, the Gemara tells us that we, Simonim Ilsihi, comes to Rosh Hashanah. We do all sorts of simonim on Rosh Hashanah because that will affect the rest of the year. What does that mean? Are we also trying to do that in that case over there? Yeshiva starting Rosh Chodesh. What's Rosh Chodesh? Like we're starting on things. What's the reason that we're sort of relying on dates and times to show the success of something? So there's a Mordechai Rambam. The Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim Chelik Gimel brings down that he says that all sorcery, all types of magic that people believe in, are completely baseless. They're completely no shaykhos whatsoever. They have no effect whatsoever. And the Torah says that they're still asa, even if they'll have no effect, because maybe people will become very involved in them and will actually believe in them. Which is why the Rambam says that it's a problem. However, any cure or any superstition that actually is known to work in that case, then the Rambam says that could be, depending on the situation obviously, that could be mutter in that case. There are many, like the Rashba and the Ramban and the Ran, that are cholik on that sugya over there. because anything that's done by a goy automatically could be asa to be done by a yid. Now, there are a lot of different sort of categories. It's impossible to go through all of them. Let's give you some examples of some of the things that we're maybe not even familiar with, which could fall under the category of Chukas HaGoy, Darkei Amoiri, which are brought down in some of the poskim. Number one, names. The Medrash tells us that one of the reasons that Klal Yisrael had the schus of leaving Mitzrayim, one of the reasons is because they had the schus of never changing their name. Klal Yisrael have specific names, we have distinct names, and we cannot use the names of a goy. According to the Maram Shik, if a person calls himself or anyone else a goyish name, he's over an issa da'oraisa of and in fact the Maram Shik was actually, Shik stands for Shem Yisrael Kodesh, right? Rav Moshe brings down a limud schus for many of the goyish names that people have. Rav Moshe says because they went into hiding and they were scared. Klal Yisrael sometimes were in situations of sakana, so maybe they had to call themselves goyish names just so they shouldn't be known, it shouldn't become public, it shouldn't be a sakana. So Moshe says there's a limud schus in that way. What about the red band? People have these red strings that go around their hands. What's the halacha with such a thing over there? So there's a Tosefta in Shabbos Perek Zayin, where the Tosefta tells us that if you tie a red string on your finger, as I state in the Tosefta, that's Darkei Amoiri. That's something that should not be done in that case. There are many poskim that bring this down. The Rosh Chochmah brings it as well. The Darkei Tshuva brings it in Yeridei Kufay and Tess as well. Red, by the way, also it does, we know, brings a person to save himself from ayin hara. And in fact, in the Tshuva, in the Debet Sinarov, in Bei Moshe Chelek Ches Simon Lamed Vov Ois Beis, that he says that Avad, he brings many marmakoimis to show that red can rid a person from an ayin hara. And Kach is the minig, he writes to put in the baby carriage something red over there to save a person. Debet Sinarov brings it in Shuvas from ayin hara. In that case over there, there's a shita in the Beis Yosef that he brings, that he mentions in Chazal also, that it's not considered to be Darkei Amoiri to do that. If you see in the Zohar as well, in Parsha Shlach, he says that when a person looks at Tcheles, it avoids ayin hara. So why red? If it says Tcheles, so Rosh Hashanah brings that it comes from the worm. The worm is the lowest form of animal that crawls on the ground, and when a person sees the worm, it gives him a sense, or should give him a sense of anova. That he realizes that, at the end of the day, a worm is the lowest creature and everything else like that, and therefore because of that, he should hopefully, all his gaiva should go away, and hopefully the ayin horas together with that should also be gone. By the way, Rebelski Zatzal paskind that if you have one of those red things, you have to take it off on Shabbos, because it's an Isav Hitzah if there is no Eruv. Rabbi Zul Obach told me that that it's okay. He wants to say it's like a kameh or whatever, but upon him, the Maisa Rebelski Zatzal paskind that it could be a shayla if there's no Eruv of carrying it over there. Now, Stamazoi wearing red is also a shayla. It's more hilchas tznius, but even wearing red is the Marik was very makbid not to. The Shach brings down in Yeridei. Also, a person should not wear red in that case. By the way, the Mishnah Halachos, Rabbi Nasher Klein says it applies not only to women but also to men. It doesn't make a difference. The Rav Vazna Shevet Alevi is a tshuva in Chelek Vav that he says that the Maisa for kids you can be a bit more makel to wear red. It's not the end of the world. Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal was more machmir that you shouldn't wear red even for kids in that case. There's a shayla even bisman hazeh, is it a problem? But upon it, many were makbid in that case. Wedding rings. Giving a man a wedding ring. So Rav Moshe is a tshuva, and he writes that when people exchange rings and give rings at the engagement or the wedding, whatever it may be, it's a goyish azach. But he says that if a man wants to do so to show that he is married, then it's no shaykhs to a simon of kedushin. I know someone, for example, that used this lamaisa. It was a bacha, and he went to university. And in university, he was a bacha, he put on a ring specifically so that any girl over there should have no shaykhos because she knows that he's married. So Moshe says if you're doing it for that purpose, not for the sake of kedushin, then avada there's a mokim to be makel. But he says that a yiras shamayim should be machmeh. Putting the bima, by the way, placing the bima in the shul is also major shaylas darkei amoiri. It has to be that you don't put the bima right in front of the Aron HaKodesh in a place that people cannot walk in front. As long as the bima is placed in a place where there is an area that someone can walk. It doesn't have to be mamish in the middle. It can be closer to the front, but as long as someone can walk, otherwise that is doimet to the goyim. A bas mitzvah, where Moshe has a tshuva about making a bas mitzvah, is that mutter, is it not? And he writes at the end of the day, it could be it's a shaila of Chukas HaGoy, but he says it's no worse than a regular birthday party. Rav Moshe Sternbuch also says a similar idea. It's a nice fancy birthday party, so that wouldn't be a problem. Rav Moshe also didn't like the idea of Thanksgiving as well, because again, it's a goyish shazach, even though it's a shaila, is it come from goyim, doesn't come from goyim, that's a different shaila. But Akoponi Rebelski Zatzal said, if you're doing it als hakoros hatoy to the America, to allowing us to live there and serving the Rabbeinu Shalom and everything else, then Avadan there's no problem in that case, for that's the kavana. Flowers on a matzeva, also very goyish shazach, to put flowers on the tombstone, on the matzeva over there. If a person's allowed to do that, there's a big tshuva in Chacham Ovadia Yabia Oimer Chelik Gimel Simul Chav Dalet, whether a person's allowed to put flowers on the matzeva. Putting a picture of the mace, the Chassam Sofer goes wild with anyone that puts a picture of the mace on the tzion, on the tombstone over there, on the matzeva. That's a terrible thing to do. Sports stadiums. Rav Moshe talks about going to sports stadiums, and he says it's a shaila of Moshe Vleitzim. He said it's not Chukas HaGoy. Chukas HaGoy, it's not. He does the shaila if it's Chukas HaGoy. He says it's not, but it's definitely going to be considered to be a shaila of Moshe Vleitzim. But he says, could be nowadays, the minig, people do it, whatever, ayin shom. All sorts of things, Rabbi say like that. We have to finish over here, but just mention one last thing, Rabbi say. The Heilige Chofetz Chaim, when he made Birchas HaShacha every day, and he said the bracha, Shaloi Sani Goy, he made sure, he stopped, he paused, and he thought to himself, is there anything inside me that has any shaykhs to a goy or not to a goy? Haircuts, clothing, things that we do, things that we say, places that we go, because of a shaykhs to a goy. Before we say Shaloi Sani Goy, we want to make sure we have no shaykhs. When Mashiach comes, Be'ez Hashem, later today, he's going to be picking out those that associate themselves with Yidden, not those that associate themselves with goyim. Have a wonderful day.